Welcome, welcome. You're in the right place at the right time. Today is Tuesday and it's 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I tell you, we're going to have a great show today. I have two of my favorite people in the whole wide world on the show with me. And they're going to be talking about the book that they have authored together. And I'm so excited and looking forward to hearing them talk about their project. So let's get to it. The first thing I want to do is give a shout out to my mentor. Dr. Hunt and I have been traveling in life together for 30 plus years. And out of those 30 plus years, he has been a blessing to both me and my family, as well as I have been a blessing to him and his family. And the reason why I talk about mentors the way that I do is because I'm trying to encourage you to get a mentor. Get someone that can help you when life gets a little rough and you don't know whether to turn left or to the right. I want to encourage you to be able to find someone that can be a blessing to you and your family. And then when you find that person, stick with them. Stick with them as close as you can because they're there to be a blessing to you and your family. And then you can get a show and shout them out, just like I do every chance I get. So I just wanted to encourage you all to do such a thing. Now, I want to invite you guys to go over to my website, ask-dr-ron.com. When you get over there, I want you to be able to notice right off the top that you can push that button that says listen live and be able to watch every live broadcast in real time. So when you go over to the website, you'll be able to see in real time the shows as they're going on. Also, while you're there, you'll be able to see some of my advertisers. And I have a few of them listed here. RRJ Web. If you have a website that is giving you the blues and you can't get it to work right, RRJ Web can help you fix your broken website. If you would like to develop a website, RRJ Web can help you develop a website. So whatever's floating around in your head, say like, oh, I've been wanting to do a website for the last 20 years, he can help you do it. Also on the website, I have SMJ Financial Group. Now, if you're interested in getting your taxes done before the deadline, because the deadline is coming up real soon, you can reach out to SMJ Group and make an appointment to get in there and get it done. They have accounting for businesses as well as for personal taxes as well. So reach out to them and get those taxes done because I tell you, the IRS is looking for a reason to knock on your door. Port Again Sam. Now, Port Again Sam and I have been working together for 15 plus years now. And they bring in some of the best wines and spirits from all over the world. And I tell you, if you are a cognac drinker like I am, he's got some excellent cognac. You might want to go reach out to him so that you can find out what your new favorite wine will be. Now, just click on any of these banners or any of these links. It'll take you over to their websites, and you'll be able to make appointments with them directly on their website. Now, the last person I want to talk about today is Prince Hunter Financial Group. Now, the Prince Hunter Financial Group teaches people how to, I don't want to say you know, well, I guess it is working the stock market. If you want to learn about the stock market, if you want to learn about the Forex market, and you want to work towards making your financial future, then you want to reach out to the Prince Hunter Financial Group because they're giving up 4 free classes to anybody who reaches out to them and says that they heard about it here on the Dr. Ron show. So 4 free classes. Get your 4 free classes today, and you'll be able to start your career, your new career, in understanding how the stock market works and how it can help you and your family become financially independent. Well, there are other sponsors on my website. I want you to check them out when you get over there. But at this time, I'm so excited to introduce to you my guest for today. This is the very first time that they have been on the show. They're book authors. They have been working on this project for some time, and I'm so excited to welcome them to the show for the very first time, Joni and Hope.
Hello, how are you
Hi, how
today?
are you?
Well, I'm great. How you guys doing?
Oh,
Doing
fine.
pretty good.
Very excited, anticipating the show today.
Well, good, good, good. Well, let's start out. Let's talk about you guys. Who are you? I know you are, book authors. That's what you wound up doing. But what are some of the things that you would like to tell the people about yourselves?
Well, you first. Sweetie.
Oh, well, um, I'm a Hoosier. Um, Met my husband in Chicago, um, married, and lived in Illinois for 25 years. Moved back over here to Indiana, and during COVID, with so many of us being trapped inside, we decided to write a book. And it was primarily on my husband's end because he started on his own, and I just happened to pick up and read a few pages of what he, you know, started up with. And I told him, hey, you got to finish. I'll be the typist. You finish doing this book. So, fortunately, you know, having taught typing and all kind of business skills, my typing skills were still intact, and I could still do about 120 words a minute.
Wow.
And we knocked this book out in 6 months' time, and here we are talking about the book.
Yeah, absolutely. So now you guys have been married how long?
35 years.
35 years. Lord have mercy. That right there is a book by itself.
Yeah,
You know.
true.
So Joni, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, yeah, I'm from Chicago, the west side of Chicago. My parents are Fred and Pearl Mason. I'm the last of 8 siblings. Um, I've been a deputy sheriff, international representative for a major union, sold software to governments, legislative software. We had our own restaurant, and we did that. And we've also used to make custom jewelry, and well, we still make it every now and then. And then we started writing. I had had some medical situations, so I couldn't do a lot of the physical things that I once did. So we had to find something to do that we could enjoy doing together. And she did much more than just typing.
Uh,
She's really excellent at the English language and the structuring of sentences and editing and proofreading and all of that, which is a real integral part of writing a book. Intricate part of writing a book, and we combined our experiences from other jobs, and which she has had some. She's been a chief of staff for a commissioner. She has taught at East West University, I believe. Just many that we have a varied background and varied experiences, and we just put it all together as we always do, and we wrote this book, and it was quite a great experience, I have to say, for us.
it was.
Well, good. For the first thing I got to say is, people in Chicago always complain and talk about the west side of Chicago. They say don't nothing good come off the west side of Chicago. So right now we can put a stop to that. We got a living witness that something good came off the west side of Chicago.
Thank you.
Now, all right now, because they talk about the west side now.
They do.
My father was from the west side of Chicago, and it was still kind of questionable if anything good came off the west side, but he survived, and he used to talk about the stories on the west side. Now you witnessed a lot of things growing up on the west side, but it was a community that people stuck together. It was very family orientated. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, yeah, my whole family really, except for a part of the family, your branch, was on the south side, but the rest of us were all on the west side. And then when my older siblings started getting married, some of them started moving to the south side, but it was a slow and gradual migration. But it was wonderful growing up on the west side. The schooling, the education, it was really close knit. I came from a large family, so there was not a lot of need for, adding a lot of outside people, as we were growing up. But, that happened eventually. But it was great. The barbecues, the picnics, the holidays, the cookouts. People from the south side were at our house every weekend. My parents owned a 3-flat. My sister lived on the 3rd floor, and we lived on the 2nd floor. And the 1st floor was just different relatives at different times. And so, on the weekend, everybody came there to eat and play cards and whatever we did, celebrating a holiday or birthday or graduation or whatever. It would always ended up at 427 North Sawyer.
I know that's right. Now being a Hoosier, as you so eloquently put it, now what was that like growing up on, the Indiana? What part of Indiana was it? Gary, I remember, the beach part of it, but you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I was born in East Chicago, of which we know as the harbor. That portion is closest to the water, obviously. And by the time I was 5, my parents had built their house here because my dad was on the police force. He did not want me and my mom traveling down Industrial Boulevard morning and evening coming from school because my mom was in the school system over here in Gary. So my parents decided, hey, we've got to get a house built before Hope is 5 so we can be settled and you're not commuting. And that's exactly what happened. And progressed through grade school and came time for high school. And my mom working in the public school system, she's like, no, Hope is not going to attend public school. So they shipped me off to Bishop Noel in Hammond, Indiana. Okay. So I was the one commuting on the school bus, but it turned out very, very good. I'm not Catholic by faith, but I learned an awful lot from attending the school, great education, fantastic exposure. I had a nun that really took me under her wing. We called her the singing nun, and really cultured my voice. And I left from there, and a few years later, I joined an opera company. I sung for 3 seasons with the opera company. And from that, to continue my voice, I studied with, believe it or not, a cantor, a Jewish person, a man who was very, very popular on the North Side, Mr. Ray Edgar. And so I went from studying with a nun to studying with a cantor. And so it really brought about a lot of cultural changes in my life, which were fabulous. So that's a lot of exposure that I had. Fortunately, being from Indiana and moving to Hammond and then going to Illinois and so on and so forth. So
Okay.
I'm an only child,
Okay.
and uh, it's quite a contrast to his family life, uh, with him being the last of eight, and it really makes for quite a blend.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah. So I got to ask this question. Okay.
Sure.
You growing up in the arts, being an opera singer, I never knew that. And, you know, Joni being from the west side of Chicago, how did you guys, come together? How did you all meet?
Well, we were both working at Carson Perry Scott when it
Okay.
was really in its heyday, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it was
And
pinnacle.
he was down on the first floor in the men's department, and I was up on the ninth floor in the corporate level,
Okay.
because I was a uh, executive secretary to the assistant to the treasurer. So every day I would come down those escalators. There he would be standing at his counter, and I'm like, oh boy, I got to know him. So things just kind of developed, and we became friends, and we got close, and parents met, families got close, and got married, and that's how it kind of came about. But yeah, we both worked downtown at Carson's, and um, it was just meant to be, I think. So,
Yeah.
right on.
Obviously. You gonna add something to that, Joni, or you gonna let that one stand by
I
itself?
think she pretty much nailed it all.
Oh, okay.
So
All right.
interesting and so different.
You ain't gonna tell the story, where you was looking up the elevator every day when she was coming down, nothing like that. You ain't gonna add nothing like that to it, huh?
She was so interesting, and she still is. I mean, her interests are so varied. The opera singing, flying airplanes, and doing all of these different things. Immediately, I was like, wow, this is so different from anybody that I've met before. And so, even though we didn't get married till years later, we remained really, really close friends for a number of years and before we got married. But it was just that there's just so much the culture, the architecture, and all the different things that she sort of opened my eyes to, and we really enjoyed. It turned out to be sort of a natural state for me once I got involved. Anything she liked to do, I immediately found interest in, and it was vice versa. So there's a lot to say when people say, being friends with somebody first is really important. That is so very true. You have all of these different things to go to when certain other areas aren't, you know, what they used to be for a period of time or whatever. What the thing is that you click on so many levels, and we always have.
Yeah. So now, do you sing opera too, Joni?
No, I don't do opera. I sing, but
He's
opera.
quite a singer. Trust me.
Okay.
I don't do opera. No, she
Okay.
used to force me to do. She used to force me to sing Porgy and Bess with her years ago.
Really? Okay. All
Yes, I
right.
learned part of that song.
Okay. So what do you like to sing? I mean, what type of singing
Oh,
you do?
I like R&B and I like standards like Moon River, Fly Me to the Moon, The Days of Wine and
Okay.
Roses, and things like I love Alita Adams' work. I just love good R&B. People Bryson is oh my God, he's one of the best singers on the planet. Um, and just Phyllis Hyman, um, people like that. They just are singers, and so there's an array of singers. Aretha Franklin, of course, and
Mm.
just there's so many people that it's not just one person or one type of music that I like. We like all types of music. We really do.
Mhm.
We um, we just really are taking what um, any kind of art.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now I got to ask this question. Years ago, I used to work with the group there was an off-Broadway show called Three Mo Tenors. Did you all get a chance to see that?
I thought we saw it on television. I don't remember if we saw it. Did we see it in person?
We
I'm
might
not
have
sure.
seen it
I know
downtown.
we saw so many shows.
Yeah,
Phantom of the Opera.
but I do know what he's referring to.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
You're talking about the three black tenors, right?
Right,
Three
Three
Mo
Mo
Tenors.
Tenors.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
yeah,
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 we saw that show.
Yeah.
yeah, and the reason why I asked the question because they had in that off-Broadway show at least 7 different styles of music, including opera, show tunes, R&B, so it was just such an interesting show. So I just asked that question because I know both of you all being lovers of music, I just wondered if you had got a chance to partake in that show.
Yes, I know we saw it on television because they did a television presentation of that.
Yeah.
Right, they did a PBS special, yes.
Yes, we
Correct.
saw that.
That's right.
And I don't know
Okay.
if it's one of the ones we saw in person.
Yeah,
But
it
at
was
one
great.
time, we used to
Yeah.
have one season, we had box seats for the entire season for the Civic Opera House.
Elizabeth for
The lyric opera.
Lyric opera,
The lyric
yeah.
opera, yeah.
Mhm.
And we saw
Mm.
all that, and that summer, their itinerary was all the famous operas, and we saw them all.
Saw them all.
Yeah, at
Saw
the
them
Lyric
all.
Opera House that summer. That was interesting.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So now, you guys got together, met each other, romanced each other, entertained one another, families came together, and fast forward to 2023, where you all have this wonderful book. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's the book cover. Um, this is it. And you guys got together and started working on this during COVID, you said?
Yes, I think it was we started writing the day of the insurrection, I
That's
believe.
right. That's correct.
Yeah, that was the
The
day we
6th.
started writing, the 6th, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the world is going up in flames and y'all started writing a book.
I
Yes,
tell
we
you.
did. That's exactly what happened.
Trapped inside, got busy.
Yeah, it was something
Okay.
COVID and was pursuing and
Was raging. Yes.
yeah,
yes.
it was an amazing thing.
Mhm.
It really
So,
was.
so,
It took,
so
you know what, writing a book, I recommend it to anyone and everyone. It literally takes your mind away from everything that's exterior outside of writing the book.
Mhm.
And it really did for us.
Mhm.
There were a lot of things going on, a lot of things that were happening that we had no control over in our lives. But we had control over the book, and we would get up in the morning and started writing. Get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and started
Yeah,
writing.
yeah.
And it just took us away from everything that was going on around us.
Absolutely. It was a 24/7 project.
Yeah,
I mean, we
wow.
could write for hours or type or do a little editing. Then we'd sit and kind of contemplate that scene or that particular, incident going on there. And I'd say, okay, let me get up. Let me fix something. Let's eat a snack or eat a bit. And then we'll go back to writing. I'll go back to typing. Think about this. Let's make some notes. You pick up from there, you go forward, you say, okay, such and such doesn't work because it's got to blend in with such and such time. So we pick up and we go forward again and we say, okay, let's take a nap for a few hours, then let's get back at it. And that's kind of how it came about because the time was our own.
Yeah.
So we were able to control it, till it just worked as a total advantage for us. So that's how we made it happen.
So what was your biggest inspiration for the book?
Ooh, there was a lot going on.
Well, the George Floyd had happened.
Mhm.
The insurrection was happening then.
Yeah.
All of the preceding election, the elections and all of that was going on. The political atmosphere was really fuel to the fire.
Yeah, racism was pretty
Yes.
much out of control. And,
Yeah,
and
all these new racial tactics that were being put up on Black America on all levels, and it even it showed the racism to Jewish people and Spanish people, Mexican
Asians,
Americans,
yes.
Haitians. It all started unraveling, and there was no more of oh no, that's over with. That's not happening. Oh, you're imagining it. There was nothing, So it was all out in the open. So we just started writing and putting something together using the current issues of today
Mm-hmm.
as
Kind of.
character and scene building situations, and it went from there. And we were going. Something that happened that in our lives we didn't, we were dealing with, and so we turned around, and I remember seeing her sitting there, and she was quite upset about it, and I was upset about it too. But I came out of being my personal feelings when I saw her going through so much anguish about it, and I said I got to do something that's going to take it. And so I really wrote those first 3 pages,
To
you
put
know,
me to work.
to get her to refocus. And I didn't know if it was going to work or anything like that. But when she and I didn't ask her to read it. I knew she would come over to the laptop eventually and say, what have you been working on, right?
Yeah.
And so she did. And when she saw it, she was what she
Oh
said
man.
before. She was like, oh, she said, sit down. She said, I'm going to start typing. You're going to start dictating. We're going to get this book written. She said, this is really, really
Yeah.
good. And that's how we continued on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now let me ask you a question. I know you all are, around my age group, and I got gray hair, so I know you've been around for a while. Joni got gray hair. So, would you say what you have seen as an inspiration for this book? Were there any comparisons to the history of the civil rights movement, some of the things that you witnessed growing up, trials and tribulations you went through, being a black person on the West Side, being a black person in Indiana? Were there any correlations or something that fed your desire to want to do this?
Well, no, we always were conscious and always have been outspoken, when things were put right in front of our face. But, at our age and I think I know I was, and I think she was too. And but she knows we were active in some civil rights thing, but we were more sort of like voyeurs, watching it on television, donating money, being part of this and that, but not confronting it head on like a lot of people did, who sacrificed a great deal and made many things happen for us. And we make mention of some of those people in the book.
Yeah.
But it's if you're black in America, you can't get away from civil rights. If you're black in America, you can't get away from the culture of being oppressed, and it is just you're put to task every minute of every day, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with the inspiration of the book with current day things, like you said, George Floyd and January 6th, were you feeding off of things of the past or just strictly the here and the now?
Well, it was, I think a lot of us are here now, but the past history is very much a part of this book. But one of the things that always stuck with me is that accountability for the people who did these egregious and horrible things to many people, no matter what their race was. But I'm looking from a black perspective, and that accountability is something that is so important to the victim and the victims' families who live on and still feel this pain from generation to generation. And so the book is really about, how do you get accountability from somebody who's protected on every level, in every part, the justice, the education, the judicial system as a whole, the law enforcement. They all protect these people to a huge degree. So how do you get accountability in a situation like that? So what we did was we created a scenario where accountability comes, not in the form of, you may think that people will get accountability, may want it, but it comes in more than one way to the people that harmed his family. And when I say this family, they have extended people that are become part of their family through this process of accountability. And it shows the relationships when a person is taken from you in such a horrible way. It shows how it changes the family, the dynamics of the family, the relationships. So how do they all go on? So we really delve into the relationships, the emotional part of that, and how they migrate in the future to the current setting in the book.
Hmm. So the book Accountability, which is the title, it puts a real time now solution to a real time now problem.
Right,
Absolutely.
right.
Yes.
It really encapsulate the here and now of what is going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to be frank, so there's not one solution. It's a complex
Hmm.
maze of people and things that have to happen for it to really, be effective.
So what would you want people to take away from this book when they get into it? Now, I know you talked about it when we were off the air. I know you were saying how much of an easy read it is. You said if you got a good 8 hours, you can sit down and go straight through the book. But what would you want people to take away from the book?
Um, there are a lot of lessons to be learned through this book. Um, kind of to put it in short, uh, what goes around comes around. Uh, you can't get away with but so much in your life before you are really kind of paying the price for that. And it comes out in many different aspects in this book. Um, it's political, it's social, it's cultural. There are a lot of factors that are impacted as far as how things kind of come back at you. So in that case, uh, you should always kind of be looking over your shoulder if you're going to try to pull some shenanigans. But that's what kind of happens here. You know, and good can come from a lot of places. Blessings come from a lot of places. Friends and family kind of pop up here and there, particularly in this book, that are, just, you know, uh, like angels. I mean, things happen, things have happened to us like that in real life. And I
Hmm.
think that's where we get some of this, a lot of this from, as far as different relations coming together and helping others out and that kind of thing. So it's a lesson to be learned. That's all I can say, and it makes you accountable for you know what you have done, or what have you know what you've witnessed or whatever. But it's just a lesson. It's just a lesson to be learned.
Hmm. The characters in the book are it's an international group of cast of characters, from American to Russian to Chinese to English, European, and the Israeli community. They're all intertwined in this book, and it is quite an intense experience for everybody. But it really brings into, we try to seamlessly tie in different subject matters, and in a way that they just happen in real life, and at the same time, um, we a lot of the things that you will hear in the book, the locations and things like that, you'll probably feel familiarized with them. and really, uh, you will identify with several people in your life when you read this book.
Mm-hmm.
You'll say, "Oh wow, that's like so and so, and so and this reminds me of this, reminds me of that." But it's quite an exciting read. It's not. I don't. I think it's becomes fast paced, and there's you just have to read the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had friends that have read the book and they'd come back at us, Ron, and they'd say, I picked that book up and thinking, oh, I'm gonna read a couple of chapters, blah, blah, blah. They couldn't put the book down. I had one girl say, hey, I burned up my dinner in the oven. I couldn't let that book go. And next thing I know, I got smoke and flames and whatever going on. And, people have stayed up all night. They miss work. They say, hey, I was going to finish that book. Okay. I had to know the end. I had to see what was happening.
There's action in the book, but action can come in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think just people having exchanges with each other, we show the action in that as well as the action, other kind of action,
Yeah.
right? We show, these, I call them vignettes of these exchanges and relationships, and to me, that is just as interesting as somebody jumping off a cliff with no parachute.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to show that in these relationships, how important they are, how interesting and how adventurous people have to be to connect with other people. Because you really do have to put yourself out there, and then you have to really accept other people and who they are, where they are, not where you want them to be, but where they are. And we really try to connect these dots of human beings.
So, are there any characters in the book that you would like to say parallel some things in you all's life or one of you all's lives that you say, okay, well, I'm gonna put myself right here. This me. Did you put yourself in the story, place yourself in the story?
Well, the thing was how we're connected is that there are things that have happened in our lives in the last, I would say, 15 or 20 years that took it was excruciating for us in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did was wrote a story that is excruciating for the characters,
Mm-hmm.
because the pain that they go through and stuff to us is like the pain that we went through certain episodes and certain people that were very close to us at one time, and some still are, and so we didn't want to write about a personal life. Hope made that very clear, and
Wasn't
so,
happening.
not directly. So
Which
what
made
we
me she
did,
said it wasn't happening.
the,
Not at all.
the parallel is that what happens to these people and how they deal with it. Those are the parallels. How those are what we really identify with. We know the depth of what they were going through and how it makes you feel, and and how you have to rebound from it without
Gotcha.
becoming the perpetrator.
Got you. So now that leads to a question that I want to ask. Now this, like you said a little while ago, there's a lot of action in the book. At some point in time, would you like to see this as a screenplay?
Ooh,
Well,
yes.
people keep asking us. They said this has got to be a screenplay. You got to guys to do it.
Mm-hmm.
They said it's ready for movie already, and we hadn't been thinking along those lines until we had people. We had brought somebody in to go to do to do the initial editing, and we brought in somebody to of all the stuff we did. And then they went back over, did it again, and then we went back over and did it after them another 15 or 20 times. So we wanted things to be pristine, and so what was the question again?
Did we see
Screenplay.
the screenplay?
Oh, and so every one of them said to us that this is almost a screenplay.
Yeah.
They said this book. They said it just yells movie. Well, you know how that process goes. We're having a hard enough time marketing this book. So, sure, our hope is that somebody will pick it up and put it in front of the right person, and they'll say, wow, this is really interesting. You need to read this. These people have put together something that that is really fascinating and interesting. So, of course, we want all the great things to happen, but more than that, we just want people to experience the book. We really do.
Yeah.
We think
Yeah.
they will get great enjoyment out of it.
Mhm.
Okay. So do you have plans to continue the story? Is there
You
like a part two, a
you can
part
answer that
three,
question.
part four?
We, yes, to answer the question, we have started on the sequel, book two, and we're
Mm-hmm.
really excited about it. Um, we have, as I said, we've started the writing. We've set some of these ideas into motion. Uh, it is picking up from the last book. Uh, it's not that you have to read the first book to get into the second book, but it's good to have that basis.
Advantageous.
Yeah, it is advantageous. But we're just as excited over it as we were book one. And um, again, back to the screenplay. I think it would be a phenomenal movie, and we've already talked about kind of who would be good in what roles, and how you see these personalities that we already know on TV, how they would fit these roles so very well.
Mm-hmm.
But we're really excited to have started the second book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let me ask you a question. Um, the book is your baby. So out of this development of this book, did you all develop a publishing company to be able to bring forth this project? How hard was it to be able to get it from the typewriter or the laptop into the pages of this book? Okay, I keep showing it because I got it, y'all. Y'all need to hurry up and get this book,
Fabulous.
because I don't know how many, they have in print, but I'm sure you can get it on what is it, that
Amazon.
little
Yeah.
tablet, and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Whoever.
So I'm sure it's available. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Sure.
But did you all develop a vehicle or a entity in order to bring this project forward?
Once the book was written, first we had to learn how to do all of that. So it was written, and then the next thing to do was the editing, proofreading, and all of that. And then once we had a finished manuscript, we had to try to learn how do you edit a book. I mean, how do you publish a book? So we started calling these big houses and found out the gatekeepers made it almost impossible for
Absolutely.
writers or authors, to get through the gates. So you had to know somebody, be somebody of a high notability, or have a lot of money to get through these.
Or a lot
And
of
so
cash.
then we started realizing why that this self-publishing through Amazon had really sort of changed the whole publishing world and literary world. And we started looking at that, and we realized very fast that self-publishing was the way to go.
Yeah.
You get more financial gain from your work than you do if you went traditionally, and and so that was a whole thing. So we had to learn how to publish on Amazon. No, but before we did that, we had to come up with a book cover that we liked, and we found something and somebody to work with that we just loved, and you see that's the end result. And then we, had to have the book formatted, so that was another thing we had to learn. And we found a professional who could help us get to the level of presentation that we wanted. So we got that done, and then it was publishing it. So Amazon was, at first when you look at it, it is really daunting.
Oh, yes.
And Amazon, there are a lot of people say, oh, Amazon, they're like a dictator with it and all of that and so forth. So we were having, and then we found out about Smashwords, and then we found out about
Draft to
Draft to
digital.
Digital and so forth. So our game plan was we would publish through Amazon, which we did. So we learned that process, did that. Then we did Smashwords,
Smashwords.
and then we did Draft to Digital,
And Smashwords bought out who?
The Draft the Digital bought out Smashwords.
That's it. That's
Right.
it. Yeah.
So, so we did. We had to become publishers ourselves, though. So we're pearlboypublishing.com. And if you go to pearlboypublishing.com, you will see the book. You will see all the links to Amazon, Smashword, and Barnes and Noble and other places that you can push a button. It'll take you right to the buy page. You can also go to our website of the book, which is pearlboypublishing.com, and it will take you directly to a link that you can read Accountability, the Book of Caleb, the first 3 chapters free if you like. And you can purchase it as a paperback, as a hardcover, or as an electronic read.
Yes.
We're working on the audio version now.
Oh, okay. So all of the things that were traditionally available, like if you went to like a Barnes and Noble before they started closing down and all of those kind of things, because hardcover books kind of went out of fashion. So everything started becoming available on electronics. You know, you can buy, I guess, a Game Boy. I know I'm saying it wrong. And then download it and listen to it and all that kind of stuff, you know, because all of those things are now what books have transformed into. You know, it's not like, you know, when we were coming up, see, all this electronic stuff wasn't created yet. So you had to have a book, a hardcover book. So do you have a hardcover, paperback, all of those?
Yeah.
And
It was important to us, you know, you just said it all. The era we came from, if it's not a hardcover, it's not a book. So
Right.
we had to do hardcover as well as paperback and the electronic version.
Yeah.
So we did all 3. And it's amazing. Some people, and, you know, we thought nobody's going to buy a hardcover because the hardcover is more expensive than the soft jacket. And so anyway, but it's interesting that some people said they have to have hardcover books when they buy them.
Yeah.
But most people buy the soft cover books, the paperbacks, and then, but you know, the electronic version, you know, that's really the wave of the future.
Yeah.
And the audio is even more important that we found out. So now we're working on the audio thing, and that's, you know, we're so particular about how we want things to go and be, and what the end product is. And so we're really having a difficult time trying to pick somebody's voice.
It's tough. It's tough
that would
picking a voice, if it's going to be male, would
Yeah.
it be female, is it an American dialect, is it British, is it whatever, you know. So many, you know, aspects to a copy that is read out loud, and it's things that you would never even consider, you know, versus when you bought the book. Say, for instance, when you bought yours, whether you order a hard copy or a soft copy, it comes to you by what they call print on demand. So, you know, the warehouse gets an order for so many books, boom, they print them up, put together, whatever, shipped out. And that's how that comes about. It's not like when we used to walk into...
There's no shelf storage.
Right. When we used to walk into the bookstore.
And you see 30 or 40 books.
You know, 30 or 40 of the same thing sitting on the shelf, and you would just grab it and go up to the counter and, hey, doesn't happen anymore.
They print them up as they're ordered.
As they're ordered. So it's quite a process to learn and to see how they come about.
The literary world is totally been unraveled from what it used to be.
Yeah.
And it's still changing drastically every day. Every day. These big traditional publishers that we're finding out, they don't have the monopoly that they once had over writers, and the ones that survive, and we believe the ones that are going to survive, the big writers or the big publishing companies, will be the ones who understand that the landscape has changed, and we have to change with it. And we don't have a dictatorship when it comes to what book to be published every year now. That has ended.
Yeah.
And it's going to continue to change every day. And so it is really a new world in so many different aspects because of technology.
Yeah. So you answered one of my questions, you know, about being an author, do you have to print so many books and then house them before people buy them? You answered that question already. So the next question I want to ask would be, like, are you now a publishing company to the fact that, like, if I had a book, I can come to you and you'll help me get it out?
Yeah,
Yeah, we could.
people have already contacted
Yeah,
us
yeah,
to ask, could we publish their books?
yeah.
And we're not opposed to doing that, but then it becomes a service. And if we're gonna do that and represent you and get your book, we want to make sure that it's pristine.
Yes.
So at this point, what we tell them is that that we're still in a learning process and still developing our skills, and we want to make sure that if we take on that task, that we're giving them, really great representation, great service, and giving their book everything we want somebody, what we have to give to our book.
Hmm.
Great. Now, big question. I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, but I know once upon a time when a person was self published, that those self published books were not available to be sold to libraries across the country or to schools because they were self published. That was the penalty or the punishment for self publishing. So, is that something that's still in place? So now, can you get your book placed in the library,
Yeah,
placed in the
Yes.
school?
And,
where
and it is in several libraries that we already know of.
Yes,
Okay,
and
good.
if somebody wants to get it into their local library, all they have to do is call or go down there and show their ID or their library card and say, I really want to read this book, and they will start the process to get it for them in their local library.
Yeah, yeah,
So that would
Great.
be how they can accomplish that. It's pretty simple
yeah.
to get it done.
Yeah, fortunately, they can't discriminate, quote unquote, anymore. Libraries are allocated so many funds, be it local or regional, to purchase books. And they have to make that service available to you. If you inquire and say, hey, here's the author's name, here's the title of the book, I see you don't have it on your shelf, uh, please get it for me. And boom, at your service, they are supposed to get it. So
Absolutely.
it's,
Well, that used to be a penalty at one time, for self-publishing, but
Yes, there's a
now it's
lot of
evolved to the
penalties.
point, where it's not there anymore.
yeah,
So now, no, understanding the book the way I do, is there like a lecture that will go with this book now? Is that something like, will you be doing some touring and talking to book clubs and organizations about the book and some of the characters in the book and how they came about?
Yes, right now we're working on setting up. We really hadn't done a book signing yet, so we're working on doing a book signing. We're working on connecting with different organizations um, that we may end up speaking and doing presentations or doing book readings from the book with. So all of those are things that we're working on simultaneously. But it's a learning process for us, so we have to take our time, and we have to, if we want to have the kind of results that we really would like to see, we really have to take our time and make sure that we do these things to the best of our ability. So it is just a process, and we're learning this process still. And the other thing is that, as I said before, the literary world is changing so rapidly
Mm-hmm.
that everything that once was is not anymore.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to applaud you guys, for such a great determination and a great work that you've accomplished. And I want to encourage you all to continue to keep up the great work because it's not easy to put down, your feelings on paper. I got to tell on myself now. Being in the entertainment industry for 50 plus years, I've had many adventures in my life. And people used to always tell me, because I can tell such great stories, oh man, you ought to write a book. You ought to write a book. I was like, I'm not a writer. But I am a spoken word person. So what I did for myself was during COVID, because, during COVID, my youngest son had his first child. So it was guaranteed that, okay, we're going to have some generations here. So I said, let me put my story down on video. So what I did was sat down in front of a camera, microphone, and I got one of my colleagues to interview me on video with some of the things and adventures of my life. And I was able to get that down so that it's there now. Now, if somebody comes along and takes bits and pieces of it and chop it up and put it in a book, God bless them. But right now, I got some of my information and history stored. Because everybody's not a typist, can do, what you say, 130 words a minute? No, everybody can't do that. Okay?
You're right. Without her, it would have got done.
Huh?
Without her skills, it never would have gotten done.
I understand. But I don't have anybody in my corner that can do stuff like that. So I had to do what I know how to do. I got colleagues that are great interviewers, and it was so funny. Chris Bass, a great friend of mine, and a brother broadcaster. He, because the way I did mine, I broke it up in 10-year segments. I did the 60s, the 70s, 80s, 90s. And, different segments, he was taking notes, because he wasn't like, I'm going to let you tell it, then I'm going to ask all these questions. And that's exactly what he did. He asked me questions that were interesting to him for clarification and that he wanted to be brought out in that interview. And it worked out really good. And now I've got it stored. So when my grandchildren or great-great-grandchildren or great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren down the road would like to know who Dr. Ron was, they can go back to the video and say, oh, that was him? And the information would be there. So I know everybody has a story to tell, and I would encourage people to go about trying to get that story out there the best way they can. So once again, I want to applaud you guys for coming on the show, being a part. Time flies when you're having fun. So before we end the show, I always have 2 questions that I have to ask my guests before they leave. The first question is, will you come back and see me again?
Of course.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, good. So we got that on tape, so you can't say no.
Okay.
So the second question that I always like to ask is, what would you like to leave with the people today before we end the show?
Well, I'll answer it, then you answer it.
Okay.
Well, reading our book will be an experience that will open up many different avenues of thought for you. And it will let you know that, I'll say this, the inevitability of accountability. Accountability is a natural action that's going to happen. How they say, for each and every action, there's the opposite reaction. Yeah, and it's so true. So you can't get away, nobody can get away from what they do. So accountability is something that just has to happen. And what do you want to say?
What do I want to say? Again, it's not just a book. This is a real experience. And even though it is fictional, it ties in so many of the current topics. You just can't help but to be caught up in it and really kind of identify with quite a few of the characters, if not all. So it's just it's just something to witness. And as I mentioned, it is a fast read. And, you know, get it, buy it, experience it for yourself, and then you make the decision. But,
Go to Amazon and purchase Accountability, the Book of Caleb.
yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
And for more information, you can go to the website that's listed on the screen here, pearlboypublishing.com. You'll see a commercial listed out there as well. That's all over my Facebook about the book. So definitely go out there. Once again, I want to thank you guys for taking time out of your busy day
And we
to come
thank
hang
you.
out
Thank
with.
you, Dr. Ron.
Yes, thank you. You know, I enjoyed it. Hope you all had a fun time.
Oh,
You
Great,
know,
it has
great,
been an
great.
yeah,
hour
good,
for us.
good. You all stay right there. We're going to end the show. I want to invite you guys to come out and join me on tomorrow. Street News Now. We'll be doing the noon report. We got a lot of stuff to talk about on this week, you know, and the latest news and commentaries that I will be giving on tomorrow. Also, join me each and every Saturday at 12 noon from the desk of Dr. Ron. Well, I'll be giving you things that are in my heart to you to be an inspiration. Also, I want to thank each and every person for all the contributions that you have made. Thank you so very much. Don't forget to go over to the website, support all of my advertisers. Without them, I would not be able to do what I do. And please subscribe, like, and share. Take the information that you've heard today and spread it around so that people can learn about the book. Very interesting book, very, very thought provoking book. And I'm going to encourage you to buy two, one for yourself and one that you can share with a friend. Okay? So definitely get two books. Buy one for yourself and one for a friend. All right. Thank you guys. Look forward to seeing you guys on tomorrow. You stay blessed, stay encouraged, and stay